Take us to the house. I won't make you pay back.
Am I the only one listening to this? Man, destroying a classic. Come on! Come on! Ow! Don't stop till you get enough. Don't stop till you get enough. Come on. Come on.
In Hong Kong, I'm Michael Jackson. You are Toto.
I mean, Tito. Toto is what we ate last night for dinner.
This summer, get ready for a second rush.
Try to blend in.
You mean blend in? I'm 2 feet taller than everybody in here.
Rush Hour 2.
So, of course, Rush Hour 2 is the sequel to Rush Hour, in which you have Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker back again as Chief Lee and James Carter as they go on to Hong Kong on vacation, only to be thwarted by a murder case involving 2 U.S. customs agents at a bombing at the American embassy. And Lee suspects that the crime is linked to the triad crime lord played by John Lone. And this kind of took the same approach to the Lethal Weapon series in terms of the success factor. Lethal Weapon was a big success, but it wasn't like a $100 million success when it first came out. But then Lethal Weapon 2 came out, made more than double that at the box office, and kind of almost similar to like The Naked Gun and Austin Powers. Rush Hour had that same effect. Rush Hour was a big hit. It did make over $130 million here in America, but this one made more than twice that, I believe. I think it was $260 million, if I'm not mistaken. Now I'm kind of curious. I was close. 226, which is still way more than they were expecting for this movie, and it just showed that there was a brand appeal for this, even though this is not as good as the original Rush Hour movie, and it definitely is not as good as the original Rush Hour film. But it does have those moments in there that do make it very funny and do make it worth it in the long run. Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker still have a lot of great chemistry together. There's still a lot of great action sequences in here. A good supporting cast. I mean, Rosalind Sanchez is very beautiful to look at in this movie. And you get a glimpse of Memoirs of a Geisha's Zhang Ziyi. And she was also in House of Flying Daggers as well as Hero. Very good actress, very good martial artist actress. And she does a lot of good action sequences in this particular film. It's still a fun movie for what it is. It's more of a lot of the same stuff we've seen done over and over again, except this time it's Chris Tucker going to Hong Kong instead of Jackie Chan having to come to L.A. And so, you know, the roles are reversed in a way, and you basically get a bigger sequel because that's exactly what you expect for a sequel like this: a bigger storyline, bigger adventure, bigger comedy, bigger everything. And most of the time, bigger isn't always great. But if it's fun enough on its own, it can make it work in this case. In this case, I think it does work on its own. There are a lot of great moments in this particular movie that I do really like a lot. And like I said, it's not as good as the original Rush Hour film. But in terms of comedy sequels, it's always you can always expect worse. But this one's almost as good, if not just as good as the original film. It definitely comes close, but more times than not, it's definitely a lesser film compared to the first movie. But I thought it was still fine for what it is. I recommend it. Rush Hour 2. If you like the first one, you'll definitely like this one as well. So let us move on to our next movie, which is Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews in The Princess Diaries.
She is right there. That's Mia Thermopolis.
Glamour, romance, fame. Mia Thermopolis had it all. But only in her dreams.
As always, this is as good as it's gonna get.
Her real life was completely ordinary.
You're way tense.
But now, something's about to happen
Your grandmother called. This is the first time she's ever contacted us, but she won.
that will change everything.
I am Queen of Genovia.
Whoa, whoa.
And you are Princess.
Shut up! Just in case I'm not enough of a freak already. What's that, a tiara?
I can teach you to walk, talk, sit, stand like a princess.
Woo!
Let the work begin.
We don't schlump like this.
It's a question of taste.
Princesses never cross their legs in public.
Tuck one ankle behind the other.
A matter of grace.
Oh, oh!
What kind of dancing do you do? Where is the beautiful girl?
My granddaughter, Amelia.
And a chance
Attack!
to make all her dreams come true.
Only power can take this and give you
Much better.
Walt Disney Pictures presents Anne Hathaway and Academy Award winner Julie Andrews.
Do you think she can do it?
I have no doubt.
The Princess Diaries.
I would like to propose a toast.
So The Princess Diaries is certainly one of those interesting little stories that kind of is very reminiscent to the movie itself. When they were making the movie and when the movie was coming out, a lot of people expected this movie to not be a big hit, mostly because of the G rating and also because of the subject matter, and kind of like with the main character in this movie, kind of proved everybody wrong, and it turned out to be one of the biggest surprise hits of the year, and eventually established Anne Hathaway's career as a leading actress. So you have a storyline here where she plays a shy American teenager who learns she's heiress to the throne of a European kingdom, and under the tutelage of her strange grandmother, played by Julie Andrews, the kingdom's reigning queen, Mia must decide whether to claim the throne she inherited or renounce her title permanently. And something else I didn't notice about this until recently: Whitney Houston produced this movie. I did not realize that, but you see her name at the end of the credits there as a producer, so that's kind of a big surprise. I had no idea she was attached to this movie as a producer. But then again, I think her company is Roundhouse Productions, I think it is, so maybe that's something I just never really took into account, but yeah, this was an idea that had been in development for a while now, and actually was written mostly with the idea that this story is, again, with the idea that the film was not going to be very successful, but especially when you consider it's opening in the month of August, and family films do not usually do very well in the month of August. But nevertheless, this thing made a ton of money. It was an unexpected hit, led to a sequel that was not quite as successful, but still successful enough to make money back. But Gary Marshall directed this movie too. This is a film that's it's definitely not my acquired taste, kind of like with Legally Blonde. I mean, we went to go see this movie in theaters mostly because my sister wanted to see it, and I saw it, I got through it okay, but like me personally, just for me in particular, I didn't think it really held up all that well as a kid, and even now when I watched it, it's just kind of like, it's fine for what it is, but again, it wasn't made for me. It was made specifically to show what Anne Hathaway can do as a leading actress, and you get her and Mary Poppins together, so that's something there. And I guess it is more centered, the target audience is aiming towards women in general, mostly preteens, kids, all that type of stuff. And they grew up with this movie, and they've grown up, and over 20 years later, it has still become a classic to them for a number of different reasons. But for me personally, it's just kind of like, it just wasn't my thing, and I think that's not really much of a surprise whatsoever. But I mean, I don't hate it per se. It just wasn't made for me. I think the target audience it was going for ate this up, and rightfully so. It's a film that definitely works for me. What I think works about it, Julie Andrews still doing what she does best. I think the casting overall is very well done. Larry Miller's very good in here. Hector Elizondo, Heather Matarazzo, of course, Anne Hathaway showing what she can do as a leading actress. I think it works. I think it works on those levels for me. It's not one I'd watch over and over again, but if I was going to watch it again, I'd watch it to see where Anne Hathaway got her start from as the actress that we know her as today. Like I said, not made for me. The target audience definitely is going to love it, but me personally, it's just fine for what it is. Kind of like with Legally Blonde. So with that said, let's move on to our next movie, a movie that I guess I know the audience that it's made for. I just don't think they want to go see it. Antonio Banderas and Angelina Jolie in the erotic thriller Original Sin.
Was mysterious.
Your wife is fugitive.
Her methods are deadly.
When something has to be done, you do it.
Antonio Banderas, Angelina Jolie, Original Sin. Rated R. Starts Friday, August 3rd. He thought he knew her.
That is not Julia.
Now everything he learns about her leads him closer to danger. Antonio Banderas, Angelina Jolie.
Well, the Sin may be original, but the movie certainly is not. Obvious joke right there. But you have Antonio Banderas selecting a mail-order bride. He's surprised to see the beauty who appears before him. She alleges that she sent false pictures to him to ensure that he would love her for what she is and not for her beauty. However, what she is a con artist, a prostitute, and an actress who teams up with a fellow actor to steal money from men. When she does that, what she does not expect is that she falls in love with a new husband and ultimately must decide between him and her sadistic former lover. Contains explicit sex, including sadistic acts as Thomas Jane cuts Jolie's back with a knife as part of their lovemaking. And literally, I'm reading this off of IMDb. That's literally what they say here. You don't believe me? Take a look at this. Yeah, that's exactly what it says on the IMDb page for this. I mean, erotic, a guy that's basically seducing Angelina Jolie by having a knife close to her back. I guess that's considered sexy, I guess. I don't know. But this was directed by Michael Christopher, who directed Angelina Jolie in Gia, which was a pretty good movie. I'm not gonna lie, it was fun. It was good for what it is. Showing what Angelina Jolie could do as a leading actress. But with that said, though, even with somebody like Antonio Banderas involved in this, it just goes to show you that Basic Instinct was a lightning in a bottle. That was something that you couldn't do twice in a row. That movie worked because you had a good storyline, two really good actors in Sharon Stone and Michael Douglas, and a very intriguing mystery. But in this case, it's just like, they're not even trying anymore. And it's just like, nobody really remembers what made Basic Instinct the hit that it was. And it was because the mystery was very good, and most of the elements of the film were very interesting to watch, and you could buy into the sex appeal in that movie between the two leads and pretty much everybody involved in that film. This feels like they're just forcing it in. It's just like, it's not even being that great about it either. It's very melodramatic. The writing is terrible. The acting deserves way better than anything that's coming out of this movie. Bad script writing, bad plotting, a twist that you can easily see coming a mile away. It's just like, it's just not worth it when it's all said and done. It's really, really not a good movie in any way, shape, or form. Like, even if you're looking for the sex appeal, I mean, go online. You can find that stuff online. And even then, it's not really that much to make you say, well, I really was curious about this movie until I saw those scenes. Like, it's not even worth it for that. That's how bad this movie is. Like, it's not even worth it to see the sex scenes in it. And that just shows you how bad of a movie this really is. It's just a movie that tries to bring people in by putting up the sex appeal, and then when they realize that they've got your money, they lock the door behind you, and you're stuck in there for over 2 hours watching this garbage. Plain and simple, pretty much what this movie is. Original sin. Ain't nothing original about it. So, let's go ahead and wrap this up with our last movie, and that is Apocalypse Now Redux.
22 years ago this summer, Francis Ford Coppola created a groundbreaking masterpiece. This summer, he's taking you further with an entirely new version featuring a wealth of footage that's never been seen before.
So what makes this version of Apocalypse Now different than the regular version? Well, Francis Ford Coppola teamed up with his editor and longtime collaborator Walter Murch to add in 49 minutes of extra material that had been removed from the initial theatrical release, and it's basically a significant re-edited version of the original film. And a lot of work had to be done on these new scenes because of the off-screen noises during the shoot. Most of the dialogue was impossible to hear, so they had to bring everybody that they could back to re-record these lines, which is very tough to do because a lot of these actors that were in this movie were not involved in this version of this. There's also actually new music also added into the elements as well. They brought in new cinematography from Coppola's director Vittorio Storaro, who would return from Italy to head the development of a new color balance for the film and the new scenes. And he had learned that a Technicolor dye transfer process was being brought back, which is a 3-step process that makes the color highly saturated and has consistent black tones. So he was basically asked to work on this movie, and he needed to cut the original negatives of Apocalypse Now, leaving Apocalypse Now Redux the only versions available. So he decided to do it when convinced by Coppola that this version would be the one that would be remembered. And it was remembered, probably not for the reasons that I think they wanted it to. I mean, original Apocalypse Now is a classic movie, don't get me wrong, and it is interesting to see a different take on this storyline in particular, but 49 minutes of new material is a bit much. This movie's already pushing it at about 2 hours long, and you're going to add more material to this. This is going to add more to the material of it. And I mean, the new stuff is fine. it's fine for what it is, but I kind of compare it to what they did with when Fox re-released Big and That Thing You Do with extended editions back in like 2007 on DVD. They added in new footage to try to give more storylines to different characters that didn't get a whole lot in the original cuts of the movie. But those parts needed to be cut out because when you put those back in the movie, it really adds to the runtime, and it really drags the film along too much. And the same thing happens in this movie here. A lot of the new scenes don't really do anything new or exciting to add to the film's overall impact overall. And in fact, it actually slows the pacing down even more when you add the new stuff in there. And it's not quite E.T. levels of bad, like stuff like E.T., like how E.T., the re-release that would be coming out in about a couple months from now, from this point, would be heavily criticized for the changes that Spielberg made. It's not quite that bad, but it's bordering on those levels when you add scenes like this that don't really add anything new to the overall storyline that works so well the first time around. It was such a unique film experience on its own merits. I mean, the original Apocalypse Now works fine for what it is. Now, does that make this movie bad in any way, shape, or form, this Redux version? I can't really say it doesn't, but it definitely does feel like it's an inferior version of a movie that was really one of the most unique experiences of the time period with that original film, and just such a hell to put together in the long run. I mean, there's documentaries about this movie and the behind-the-scenes hell that took place on it that are just as good, if not better, than the original movie. I mean, but this, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's a bad version of the film. And I'm glad that there is that you can still find the original version of this. I mean, it's not like George Lucas is keeping. It's not like George Lucas, where Francis Ford Coppola is keeping all the copies of this movie away somewhere, so no studio can ever get it. I mean, it's just that obvious that this is not that situation whatsoever. And for what it is, it's fine for what it is. But again, it's nothing that's really going to say that this is something that you need to see that's much better than the original film. It's fine for what it is, but the original Apocalypse Now, I think, still stands up more than anything that comes from this movie, hands down. This version of the movie, I should say, but that's just my thoughts on it. So, Apocalypse Now Redux.
The cast of American Pie is back.
Come on, Ozzy. It's showtime.
Join Jim.
This is my summer of love.
Stifler.
Jim, can't you leave your shirt on? You're scaring the chicks away.
Jim's dad.
Keep it real, homies.
And the rest of the gang in the new movie that proves times change, people change, but friends and family are forever.
Where's my big guy?
Oh, no.
Hey! Get out, Dad!
American Pie 2, rated R, at theaters Friday, August 10th.
Of course, American Pie 2 is the sequel to the original American Pie. Everybody's back from the first movie, and I mean everybody. I mean, they got all the main cast members back for this one, and just like the first movie, it follows the sexual exploits of five friends, Jim, Kevin, Stifler, Oz, and Finch, as their attempts to have the greatest summer party ever at a summer beach house. And of course, hilarity and hijinks ensue. And like with the first American Pie movie, there is a lot of sex in this, and there is a lot of provocative stuff that is definitely R-rated material, and the prepubescent boy who saw this movie at 12 years old loved it, and that, of course, is me. And, yeah, it is what you think it is. If you saw the first American Pie film, you pretty much get everything you get in this movie. They do try to ramp it up a little bit more, because it is a sequel. It's a bigger film compared to the previous movie, and, you know, with sequels, you gotta go big or go home, and it's definitely not as good as the original film, but it still has those moments where it's just like, I can't really knock this one down a peg because of that. I still really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. And it is still a fun movie. It's still nice to see all these guys together again. The writing overall is still very good. The comedy overall is still very good. It knows exactly what it's trying to do. And it's hard to believe this is the same director that gave us the infamously bad Say It Isn't So from earlier in the year. It's just like, how did you get this job in particular? I mean, it's not really a big job that you really have to do a whole lot of here. But unlike Say It Isn't So, this movie's actually funny and actually has stuff where the gross-out humor actually does work to the film's advantage. And there's still memorable lines in this movie all throughout. And again, it's like seeing all these guys coming back together again for what they're trying to do here. And it is a really well-done, well-made film. It's very funny. It's very much what you get from the first American Pie film. It's a comedy sequel, but it's not a bad comedy sequel. It's a sequel that's just as good, if not a little bit on par with the original film, and I really enjoyed it a lot. I can't recommend this one enough. If you like the first American Pie, you're definitely going to love American Pie 2. So, gonna get through these real quick, like I said. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Nicole Kidman in the horror film the others.
Until she discovered
There is something in this house. A presence.
they weren't alone.
What do you want? Leave us in peace!
Nicole Kidman.
Children! Run!
The others.
Where is my daughter?
Are you mad? I am your daughter.
Rated PG-13. In theaters Friday, August.
That's another one of those moments that's supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be like the big thing that's supposed to get you into the seats. And I don't know, it just never really did it for me. Like, just the way she says that line, I am your daughter. Like, you're clearly not. And if you think that's trying to scare me, that's not doing a trick here. But this is still a good movie. You have takes place in 1945 Jersey, and it focuses on the woman played by Nicole Kidman and her two young photosensitive children who experience supernatural phenomenon in the large manor after the arrival of new servants. And the film overall is a decent film. It's a film that has a lot of moments in there where the horror aspects, the atmosphere does work very well. The cast overall is very well done. Nicole Kidman does a very good job of handling the performance of the film, and I think the direction overall definitely moves it up a peg. It's one of those horror movies that you think you know what it is going into it, but when you really look at it overall, you can tell that the person that made this movie wanted to tell a different kind of house horror storyline than what we're used to seeing. I mean, it's not the Amityville Horror by any means, but it actually does more with what it has to work with here, and it leads into a very entertaining film, and one that really allows you to suck up the atmosphere and actually get involved and actually get surprised by some scares in the movie, because there are some legitimately good scares in this movie that the trailers really do a good job of hiding and making sure that you go to see this movie in the theater to see the real scary stuff in here. And I think it's well done. I think it's a very good horror film overall. Even for somebody like me who's not the biggest horror film person, I do give it credit for what it was trying to do. It created a lot of great atmosphere overall, and it makes for a very entertaining film overall. A very good horror film. Very well done. I highly recommend the others. So with that said, on to our last movie, and that is Osmosis Jones.
A deadly virus. A city at risk. Two unlikely heroes. And it's all inside this man's body. This summer, we're going into a body under attack from a killer virus.
I'm contagious.
You're busted. Give it up. Oh, why you hit so hard?
It's the action comedy that gets under your skin.
You have entered the city of Frank.
Into your stomach. And up your nose.
Just the way I like it. Extra disgusting.
Please, you're going to make me vomit.
Oh no, not again.
Chris Rock.
You're dealing with a white blood cell here.
Molly Shannon.
What is it? I mean, what is it? What do you want?
Chris Elliott.
Smell.
And Bill Murray.
Hey, have some class, will you?
Oh my God, I got the giggles.
Osmosis Jones.
I want this stuff.
Dad.
I'm feeling better already.
This summer.
Keep coming, man.
Check it out.
So Osmosis Jones is the movie that was, at the time, a massive failure for Warner Brothers in terms of the box office. It was a big flop. It had a budget of $70 million, and it only earned $14 million in total. And but it did very well in terms of home media sales, and actually led to the creation of the Ozzy and Drake spin-off series on Kids WB, which actually proved to be more successful, running for 3 seasons. So at least it was doing something on that front. But the storyline of Osmosis Jones, he's a new strain of hero. He's one cell of a guy. He's Osmosis Jones. This infectiously funny live-action animated caper kicks off in the real world as Frank, played by Bill Murray, ingests a villainous virus named Thrax, played by Lawrence Fishburne. Now, deep inside the spectacular animated inner realm of the city of Frank, it's up to a maverick white blood cell cop named Osmosis Jones, played by Chris Rock, and his reluctant cold capsule sidekick Drix, played by David Hyde Pierce, to thwart Thrax's epidemic of evil. Join the most outrageous eternal adventure of all time in a contagious comedy that's lots of fun for the whole family. Oh, you and your stupid puns, Warner Brothers. It's sickening. And you think that this would be the worst thing that Warner Brothers would ever put as a studio. But, no, David Zaslof's found a pretty good job to ruin that with all the things that he's done, specifically what he did for this week. But that's a plot that comes from the YouTube page when I was looking for the trailer for this. So don't blame me for that lousy pun. That's on... I could blame YouTube, but you know what? I'm blaming Warner Brothers. They're the one that put it on their channel. But don't worry. The entire movie itself is filled with so many of those puns, but some of them are just as bad as you think, and some are actually kind of good. I'll give this movie more credit than I think it deserves. It does have a lot of creativity to it. The animation in this is really good. The ideas of this are very fun and creative, and you can tell that there was a lot of later inspiration used for the much more successful Inside Out. I mean, there's a lot in here that works mostly on the animation side, even though some of the voice work isn't that bad in general. But really where the movie kind of falls apart is with the live-action sequences, mostly because they all feel out of sync and completely take you out of the movie in general. And it's clear that you have two very different versions of this movie appearing on screen, because you have the animation, which looks about where you would think it would be at. It looks very cool for a story like this. But then you have these live-action segments directed by the Farrelly brothers, who Warner Brothers got because they were still the hot shit back then, and there was something about Mary and, of course, Bill Murray, and they didn't bother to make any of the main characters in the live-action segments likable. I do not care for any single one of these people in this movie whatsoever. The problems whatsoever, the live-action actors I'm talking about here, and it should just be as important to the story as the animated characters are, but it really feels like the live-action sequences weren't met with the same respect and care that the animation did. It's like the same thing. They saw the animation, and Warner Brothers realized, we don't have any live-action stuff planned for this. Let's just get who's available at the moment to do 3 weeks' worth of stuff for us. It felt like the live-action stuff was more like an afterthought, and zero effort was put into that concept. And that's unfortunate, because if the live-action stuff was given actual effort to and also not to be seen as an afterthought, they could have had something here. But when you look at this film as a whole, the marketing for the film just feels like there was no fucks given whatsoever. I mean, look at the DVD for Osmosis Jones right here. Now look at the bottom of the cover. That's actually an original rough draft of Osmosis Jones that they just plastered on the cover with the characters from the final project. It's not even, I'm not even kidding, that's an actual still image of the original first drawings for Osmosis Jones. And I know this because it was in the Entertainment Weekly Summer Movie Preview magazine for 2001. That's how you know this movie is lazy. They place a rough draft image of the cover with the final version of the main character. It also doesn't help that Warner Brothers was really, in deep trouble with its animated film department. They were in this lull, and this was just another one of those big projects that lost them a ton of money. $70 million, only bringing back $14 million worldwide. It was the biggest failure the studio had during that brief 10-year period when Warner Brothers was trying to compete with Disney. That started, of course, with the success of Space Jam, as well as the financial failure of Looney Tunes Back in Action. But they did kind of resurge a little bit thanks to the Lego Movie and the movies that came after that. But even right now, they're kind of in limbo right now. I don't know if that's something that they really should be in a position that they're in right now. But I digress. As far as Osmosis Jones, the movie goes, with the animation, it's working. A few miscues and bad puns here or there, but it gets the job done. When it comes to the other parts of the movie, it falls off a careening cliff quickly. I'm so confused, I can't even talk right. But the movie falls off a careening cliff very quickly once we get to the live-action stuff. I mean, they should have been better written than they were here. Osmosis Jones is one of those curious misfires. That is another one of those what could have been movies. If they had somebody there to actually put as much effort into the live-action stuff as they did with the animated stuff, then you really would have had something very special here. Something with a lot of potential, but it never truly comes to fruition. So that's my thoughts on Osmosis Jones.
Saturday, 11 people must survive a race to find a fortune.
First one now keeps it all. Go.
It's a race.
$2 million. 2,000 miles.
Come on, baby!
Too many obstacles.
Who was that?
I was. Is that the correct time? Rat race.
Who's next?
They were. Rated PG-13. Sneak preview in theaters. Saturday. Check local listing.
So Rat Race is basically heavily inspired by It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. I mean, it's a movie that's trying to be the modernized version of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, or even something like Cannonball Run in a way. But you have 6 teams of people who are given the task of racing 563 miles from a Las Vegas desert to Silver City, New Mexico, to a train station where a storage locker contains a duffel bag filled with $2 million. Each team is given a key to the locker, and the first person to reach the locker gets the money. We've had movies that try to do this before. There was a movie back in the 80s called $1 Million Mystery, which actually had a tie-in with Glad Bags, where you buy Glad Bags and you get the clues to find out where this where these 4 separate bags of $1 million are. And they tried to sell it with the movie, but the movie didn't do so well. And in fact, you didn't really need to see the movie. You just had to go to the store and get the Glad Bags in order to find the millions of dollars. And I don't know whatever happened with that, but this movie didn't have a gimmick to it. In fact, far from it. This is a film that is very, very funny, criminally underrated, too. I mean, a cast that includes such names as Rowan Atkinson, Whoopi Goldberg, Cuba Gooding Jr., Wayne Knight, John Lovitz, Kathy Najimy, Breckin Meyer, Amy Smart, Seth Green, Vince Villeneuve, John Cleese, Dave Thomas. Just a phenomenal, phenomenal cast in this movie. And it's funny as all hell. This is one of the most hilariously underrated films that you probably have never even heard of. But when this movie came out, we went to go see this in the theater, and we had the time of our lives watching this movie, and it still holds up. It's over 20 years later. It's one of those really hilarious comedies that just, it's classic screwball comedy at its best. I mean, this is Jerry Zucker. This is not all the Zucker brothers in general, but Jerry Zucker worked with the Zucker brothers on The Naked Gun and Airplane, so he still proves that this movie that he still got it. I mean, this is the last thing I think he directed of noteworthiness, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's the last thing he worked on besides Scary Movie 5, which wasn't that great of a movie to begin with, even for the Zucker brothers, even with David Zucker on there. But this was the last thing he directed, and man, it's freaking hilarious, man. It's a brilliantly funny movie. Like, everybody in the cast works so great. The writing is top-notch. The comedy is top-notch. It's just an amazing film. I can't recommend this one enough. If you have not seen Rat Race, you're doing yourself a major disservice by not doing so. Rat Race, I highly recommend it. So with that said, let us move on to our next movie, and that is Nicolas Cage and Penelope Cruz in Captain Corelli's Mandolin.
At 2 o'clock! He was a man who lived for the moment, without a care for the future.
Heil Hitler! Al Pugini!
Until she walked into his life.
You think you can come here and turn my whole world upside down?
And gave him something worth fighting for. Nicolas Cage, Penelope Cruz, Captain Corelli's Mandolin, rated R.
I mean, right from that trailer alone, you pretty much know what this is. A melodramatic movie that's trying to sell itself as Oscar bait with Nicolas Cage and Penelope Cruz among the cast. And it pays homage to the thousands of Italian soldiers executed at the massacre of the Aqua Division by German forces in Cefalona in September 1943, and to the people of Cefalona who were killed in the post-war earthquake. And, I mean, to its credit, it was a better World War II movie than Pearl Harbor was, so I guess there's that, but other than that, though, there's really nothing about this movie that's really all that great. Nicolas Cage and Penelope Cruz, I think, are just fine, I guess. They're really not doing a whole lot here to really make you give this movie an extra star or so. It's just one of those movies that is very melodramatic. It's a movie that's trying to be an Oscar contender, especially with the director of Shakespeare in Love behind it. But, I don't know, man. It just didn't do it for me. I like Nicolas Cage. I like Penelope Cruz. I like the cast in general in here. John Hurt, Christian Bale, David Morrissey. Good cast overall here, but just not enough execution for me to say that it's worth a watch. I can't really recommend it, unfortunately. So, not much more to say about this one, Captain Corelli's Mandolin. And let's go ahead and wrap this up with another movie that was trying to be something from the olden days of film. And by olden days, I mean the 1980s. It's American Outlaws.
Hey! You want to die?
August 17th, bad is good. Again, American Outlaws.
Sadie was a beautiful woman. She had a mustache. I think she had more than a mustache.
Rated PG-13 starts August 17th.
I mean, the movie was quite literally just a retread of Young Guns for a new generation. The story of this is when the Midwest town learns that the corrupt railroad baron had captured the deeds to their homesteads without their knowledge, a group of young ranchers join forces to take back what is rightfully theirs. In the course of their vendetta, they will become the object of the biggest manhunt in the history of the Old West, and as their fame grows, so will the legend of their leader, a young outlaw by the name of Jesse James. Jesse James, in particular, played here by Colin Farrell. You also have Scott Conn, Ali Larter from Varsity Blues, Gabriel Mock, Priest Suits, Gregory Smith from Small Soldiers. Kathy Bates is in here as well. Timothy Dalton, Terry O'Quinn. So there's a good cast involved in here. And really, I think the biggest problem with the movie comes straight from the director of this movie, Les Mayfield, who isn't a bad director. He has made some good movies that I've liked. I thought Encino Man was fine for what it was. I liked Miracle on 34th Street. I liked Blue Streak. But this was kind of his downward spiral. After Blue Streak, his career really took a nosedive after that. You know, with this, and then followed it up with The Man, and then codenamed The Cleaner. His career pretty much died just after Blue Streak was a big success, and this was not a big success by any means. And it really did feel like they were trying to make another Young Guns movie, but it just didn't work out in their favor. But Young Guns had cool things about it that still make it hold up all these years later. This thing was pretty much dated right from the get-go. I mean, there was just nothing about this movie. No life to it whatsoever. It was a boring movie. It wasn't anything that interesting or action-packed in general. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about. And yes, I'm going to keep that in there, but this wasn't even the only attempt in 2001 to make a new Young Guns. There was another movie that comes out not too long after this called Texas Rangers with I think James Van Der Beek. I know Usher was in it too, but everyone was just trying to create the new Young Guns for some reason. I don't know why, but they did it, and none of one of them really worked, especially this one. Just, I think with a different director, and a better storyline with a better script in general, you probably would have had something good here. But unfortunately, it just feels like a watered down version of Young Guns. Except Young Guns still holds up after all these years, and this one, not so much. Pretty much dated right from the get go. It'd be fun if there was something interesting or exciting happening in it. There's a good cast to make it work, but in the end, it just doesn't work out in the end. So unfortunately, a hard skip on American Outlaws.
Being made, you two were the basis for
Jay and Silent Bob movie? Who'd pay to see that?
Miramax is starting production this Friday on their adaptation of underground comic fave Blunt Man and Chronic.
Does it say who's playing us?
Sure, it'll be Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. You know, they put them in a bunch of movies.
What? We gotta stop that stupid movie from getting made. Come on, Silent Bob. We're going to Hollywood. We keep our eye on the prize. Let nothing distract us.
Is Hollywood ready for Jay and Silent Bob?
Hey! I hate how fake Hollywood is. Damn you, Zona! Hell!
Stand there and react. Don't say anything, especially you. All right, people.
That's pretty funny.
They're there! Stop!
Critics are raving about Jay and Silent Bob.
And I quote,
A hilarious festival of humor.
expletive deleted,
A blast of comic irreverence.
expletive deleted,
One big fat guilty pleasure.
unquote.
I think George Lucas gonna sue somebody.
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Now that was worse than Clash of the Titans.
Yes, but it was better than Mallrats.
I mean, that trailer kind of pretty much sums up the good things about this movie as well as the bad things about this movie. And trust me, this movie is definitely very much a lot of things to talk about here. So basically, we have the story of, Jay and Silent Bob. They get a restraining order from Dante and Randall, who, of course, are played once again by Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson. And they keep the punchy Jay and his hetero life mate, Silent Bob, from selling drugs in front of the Quick Stop convenience store. Their lives are suddenly empty. They find new purpose with their friend Brody, Jason Lee from Mallrats. Informs them that a movie is being made about their two infamous characters based on their likeliness. After visiting one of the creators of Blunt Man and Chronic, played by Ben Affleck, who plays Holden McNeil and several other roles in this, and you're starting to see where this gets a little bit too much. But they set out to get whatever fat movie cash they deserve and hopefully put an end to people slandering them on the internet. Along the way, they come across the rules of the road from a hitchhiking George Carlin, ride with a group of gorgeous jewelry thieves, and incur the wrath of a hapless wildlife marshal played by Will Ferrell for liberating an orangutan named Suzanne. The quest takes them from New Jersey to Hollywood, where a showdown involving the police, the jewel thieves, the Blunt Man and Chronic filmmakers will decide the fate of Suzanne, Jay, Silent Bob, and their good names. Do you understand how crazy this movie is? Because, okay, we're not only adding Clerks into this, we're also adding in, Chasing Amy, Mallrats, Dogma. I mean, all of Kevin Smith's movies in this one movie with a lot of the characters from all of those movies. But then again, it makes sense because Jay and Silent Bob have been in every single one of those movies. They've been in Mallrats. They've been in Clerks. They've been in Chasing Amy. They've been in Dogma. They would continue to be in various movies here. in a film that is supposed to be the end of the View Askew universe. However, that's where the problems of the movie really come into play here, because it definitely is a very, very mixed bag of a movie. I mean, so much is going on in this film that you get lost in what they're trying to tell story-wise. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of funny moments in this movie, and moments that still hold up after all these years. There's moments and lines in this that I still remember laughing my ass off when I first heard them the first time I saw this movie. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this is a great movie overall, because it definitely feels like a film that was probably more than intended to be the last time that Kevin Smith did these type of movies, and he'd go on to do more different things, because he would follow this up with his next movie, which would be Jersey Girl, which was not a big hit critically nor financially, and so he kind of was eventually brought back into the fold with the Clerks universe. And it also felt like a movie that was trying to be a little bit too mainstream. Like, it felt like a movie that was trying to stay in the same, cold appreciation of the other movies that Smith had done, but also wanted to be more of a mainstream comedy. Like, it wanted to be something kind of like Rat Race, the movie we talked about last time around. But like I said, there are a lot of funny moments in the movie. It still has a lot of funny moments in general. A lot of really good moments involving Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith. You still buy their chemistry as Jay and Silent Bob in this. And you also get a lot of cameos from guys like Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Will Ferrell. You have the Jewel Thief, Shannon Elizabeth, Eliza Dushku, Jen Schwalbach, Kevin Smith's wife, Ali Larder as well. I mean, it's a lot to take in, really. It's a movie that has a lot of stuff in it that is very, very much needed to be taken in. It doesn't work all the time, though. It really does feel like there's just way too much going on here in terms of like a story. Not to mention, there's also the references to other movies, like not just Kevin Smith movies, but other movies in general. Like you see at the end there, they're talking about Clash of the Titans and Better Than Mallrats, all that type of stuff, and like, it's just I think it's way too much in terms of the story, like trying to have all these characters and all these comedic setups come together. But like I said, it's not a bad movie per se. It's not a film that really is overall, but it's not a bad movie at all. It's just very much all over the place in terms of what it's trying to accomplish here. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of a mix between, Beavis and Butthead Do America with a mix of, there's another one I was thinking of, maybe, that I can't remember what it is now, but it just felt like there was way too much going on in this movie to really have what Kevin Smith was trying to accomplish here in this. And for that, the movie kind of suffers big time because of it. And, again, it's not a bad movie. It's just one that's very much all over the place. It doesn't really have a good grasp of what exactly it's trying to accomplish overall. And, it's really hard for me to say that, to recommend it, but I don't hate it either. I mean, it's a decent film that does have moments that once you hear them, you'll remember them for years and years to come after you see the film. But honestly, I think it was done better with the sequel that came out many years later, almost 20 years later, with Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, which I thought was a much better movie featuring these characters in general. And this is around the time when Kevin Smith started to get his groove back, because he followed it up with Clerks 3, which was a really good film, and one I definitely thought was a little bit better than Clerks 2, which was another movie that tried to go a little too mainstream, but I thought that one worked a little bit better than Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. As far as this movie goes, it's fine for what it is, but it definitely felt like a film it felt like Smith was trying way too hard to accomplish something here, and it didn't quite work as much as I think he wanted it to. It does still have some funny moments, and I say that it's not a complete disaster by any means. It's a good film. It's a good film. I say it's fine for what it is. If you like the other movies from Kevin Smith that came before this, I'd say you definitely get a kick out of this one. So not much more to say about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, so let's move on to our next movie, and that is Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jessica Biel in Summer Catch.
You are the cream of the college crop. This little summer league is one step away from getting paid to play baseball.
You're as good as any of those guys out there.
Dude, what are you doing?
For these ball players,
Take your time around the corner.
getting to the majors
It's my house, Mom.
Is she married?
takes courage.
Come on. She's over 40. She's old enough to be my mom.
I'm real good with ball players.
it takes commitment.
I like a big girl. A large, voluptuous, full-figure, massive honey. Yes! Anybody got a problem with that? Okay.
And sometimes, the best catch in town is right in front of you.
I think that's pretty much all you need to see about this movie. I mean, what more do I even need to say about this movie? It's basically another movie that's trying to be a reminiscent of something from the 80s. We had we had American Outlaws, which was trying to be the new Young Guns. Now here we have a movie that's trying to be the new Bull Durham, except it's the new sexy teen version of Bull Durham. Like the WB made this movie and features some people from the WB in it. But Summer Catch, you have Ryan Dunn, played by Freddie Prinze Jr., who is a nice high school kid. I'm not even joking. That's literally what it says here in the synopsis. Who works hard mowing lawns for Dad Sean's firm. Is caught between loyalty to Sir, who cynically believes neither of his sons will ever climb the social ladder, and Big Brother Mike, who scolds Ryan's lack of ambitions to go all the way to be a recruiter for a baseball college scholarship, which Mike had abandoned due to a wound. To complicate matters, he falls in love with a snobbish client's daughter, played by Jessica Biel. Of course, at the time, she was on Seventh Heaven. And you see her there in the skimpy bikini. And you see other things in here that is very much familiar to you if you saw the movie Bull Durham, which is the far superior film on a number of different levels. And so in addition, you have Freddie Prinze Jr., Jessica Biel, Fred Ward, Matthew Lillard, Brittany Murphy, Brian Dennehy, John C. McGinley's also in here, Wilmer Valderrama, Beverly D'Angelo, that you just saw in the trailer. I mean, this is a movie that is just so much a bad movie. It's a movie that is literally trying to be a new generation's Bull Durham, and it failing miserably. Like, this is what happens when the WB tries to make a movie based off of if the WB was to make a series off the movie Bull Durham and wanted to make it specifically for the teen audience, it feels like this movie would be exactly that. It feels like that's the type of movie that this movie is trying to be. And boy, howdy, does it fail miserably. I mean, I like these people a lot. I do like them as actors, but man, they needed something much better than this. This movie just felt like a film that needed to come out because, it's summertime, and this is late into the baseball season, so kind of pointless on that front too. And it's just like, there's just been so many better movies that have done this much better. There's better stories that you can believe into. There's better characters that you can relate to. This just isn't it. This is just a major, major misstep on so many levels. This is the type of movie that a studio like Warner Brothers would dump in late August, early September, because they know it was bad from the get-go. So yeah, not much more to say about that one. That is Summer Catch. With that said, let's go on to another movie that was dumped in the late August dumping grounds, and you can probably see why. That is John Carpenter's Ghost of Mars.
Williams was arrested on the suspicion of murdering 6 rail workers. The bodies were hung and decapitated.
Damn, girl. I like you already.
Yeah, Ghost of Mars is another one of those movies that very much fits into some of the movies we've talked about over the last couple of days, where it feels like it's ripping off things from other movies and is from decades before. Now here's a movie that's ripping off literally everything that John Carpenter has ever done. I mean, this movie feels like a complete retread of nearly every single thing that he's ever done, from The Thing to Escape from New York to the Mars genre of the time period, is that where everyone was trying to make a movie based on Mars and failing miserably at it. This is another one of those examples of a film that fails on that level too. But You have a story set on a colonized Mars in the 22nd century where you follow a squad of police officers and a convicted criminal who fight against the residents of a mining colony who have been possessed by the ghosts of the planet's original inhabitants. And you see a cast that includes Natasha Henstridge, Ice Cube, Jason Statham, Pam Grier, Clea Duvall, and Joanna Cassidy. And supposedly this movie was supposed to be a Snake Plissken sequel, but it was rumored to be that way, but it was actually dispelled by the film's producer, who was I guess was married to John Carpenter at the time of this, Sandy King. But it's a movie that just really feels like a retread of pretty much everything that John Carpenter had done at that point, and it didn't really feel like a film that he was very much invested into it. It's just like, from the fact that the story is very much the same story that we've seen done in many of Carpenter's classic films, but on top of that, the visual effects in this movie are so bad. Like, they did not hold up well at all. And even back then, I wouldn't be surprised if people thought they looked terrible back then. I don't know what it was like to see this in the theater, but you could tell that this movie was just a major missed opportunity on so many different levels. Just not a film that had a good storyline, not a film that had a good interest in what it was trying to accomplish, and none more significant than the fact that this was actually the last movie John Carpenter would direct until almost 20 years later. But not even I'm thinking of something else. No, almost 10 years later, because he did The Ward in 2010, and that's what I was talking about before, not the one from 2020. But the film itself just really is not that enjoyable at all. There's nothing about it that makes you say, okay, this stuff's worth it. This stuff's more worth than that. But like, there's just nothing there. It's just a boring movie that doesn't have anything interesting or anything too exciting to really give it the push it really needs to actually be something cool. And it just fails on so many levels. It's a movie that's not really all that engaging or interesting. It's just a major missed opportunity on so many levels. You expect so much more from the people who are involved in this, from the writer, director, the director and writer, who are the same person, and this cast in general. And it's just like, it just doesn't work. It's a really, really bad film. And one you can definitely tell was pushed back to this date when Sony realized there's no way we're going to be able to sell this movie to a crowd, so just dump it on the weekend before Labor Day. So, yeah, not much more to say about Ghost of Mars. So with that said, on to our next movie, and that is Woody Allen's latest film, The Curse of the Jade Scorpion.
Do not adjust your television. The Jade Scorpion commands you to see the new comedy, The Curse of the Jade Scorpion. You will laugh with Woody Allen and Dan Aykroyd.
There's a word for people who think everyone is conspiring against them.
That's right, perceptive. You will be mesmerized by Helen Hunt and Charlize Theron.
I prefer muscular men.
Maybe I could get in a few push-ups before you came over.
And you love the film Rolling Stone calls a comic gem. Marry me.
Oh, you dropped on your head?
The Curse of the Jade Scorpion, rated PG-13. Starts...
So in this movie, Woody Allen plays a veteran insurance investigator with many successes, and Betty Ann Fitzgerald is a new employee of the company he works for with the task of reorganizing the office. And Betty Ann is played by Helen Hunt. And during a night out with the rest of the employees, they go to watch Voltan, a magician who secretly hypnotizes both of them in order for them to use for his dirty schemes. The next evening, has already made his first robbery. And when he wakes up in the morning, he has no memory of it. Things get really complicated when he starts investigating the case. Will he be able to uncover himself? And this is one of those movies that really feels like Woody Allen had a good idea of what he wanted to do here, but just the execution didn't really work out that well. I mean, it feels like a film that... It's a film that he himself has even said that this is his worst movie as a filmmaker. And like, he felt left down because the rest of the cast by casting himself as the lead. And I think that is the biggest problem that the movie basically has to work with here, is that the fact that Woody Allen gets to have a relationship with Helen Hunt, well, not just Helen Hunt, but Charlize Theron. And it's just like, yeah, like, someone should have told Woody Allen that probably that wasn't a good idea when they were making it, but at least he had the decency to say afterwards, just like, this isn't really what I wanted to do. In fact, it says here that he also reshot another one of his movies because he felt the casting was wrong on that front. A movie called September, which I actually don't remember too much about. I'm kind of in the middle right now as I'm recording this of watching all the Woody Allen movies. I haven't gotten to September yet, and the film, as I haven't heard anything, I haven't gotten a chance to watch that one yet. But that is kind of interesting to think about that. But with this film in general, it's not that it has a lot of good ideas too, but I think it really does fit what Woody Allen was talking about here. I think the biggest mistake for him was basically to not let him be cast as the leading character in general here. and the period setting here and the sets were overall felt like he was trying to go too big. I think that's the best thing about Woody Allen is that when he works, it's not usually going bigger than he ever goes to. This is his biggest movie produced at the time, $33 million, which I think it still is up to this point, but it just really didn't deliver what it could have been. Like, it was really one of those movies that was just, it had good ideas to it, just bad execution, and I think the biggest mistake was Woody Allen being cast as himself in this. But again, a lot of his movies around this point, I think, there were a couple of movies around this point where it did definitely feel like that he was getting him being cast as the leading character in here was hurting the film overall in general. As we'll look at with another movie that comes up in a little bit in a couple of months after this, Hollywood Ending. But yeah, as far as this goes, an interesting idea, just bad concept, bad casting overall. It's definitely not one of Woody Allen's better films, honestly.
First time out in the world.
This is awesome!
Day 3.
I need to get to Niagara Falls by tomorrow. 500 smackers. Where am I going to get $500? You want $500? You want $500?
From a producer of Austin Powers 3, Bubble Boy. Rated PG-13. In theaters August 24th.
Which is our next movie, and that is Bubble Boy, which is something I completely forgot to tell you what the title was before I showed off the trailer. But, yeah, this is Bubble Boy, one of Jake Gyllenhaal's pre-successes before he became well-known for Donnie Darko and went on to become the star we know him as today. But the story of this movie is that he plays a young man who was born without an immune system and has lived his life within a plastic bubble in his bedroom, finding out that the woman that he's loved, played by Marley Shelton, since childhood, is about to be married at Niagara Falls. So he built a portable bubble suit and ventures into the outside world to win her affections. And this is a movie that really has some good ideas to it, has a really fun concept overall. It's basically a satire of the John Travolta movie, The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, back in the 1970s. But, I mean, this is a film that I remember seeing this in theaters when I was little, and I hardly remembered it in the years since I saw it again. I didn't see it again until not but a couple of years ago, and I gotta say, man, this movie is really stupid, but goddamn, man, this movie made me laugh really hard. Like, it's one of those movies that has a ridiculous concept in general, and has comedy that is not really that funny or not really that clever, but it's so silly and so stupid. I can't help but laugh my ass off at times in this. Like, that part there when he's screaming about the $500 thing, it's just like, I should not be laughing about this. This is not really all that clever, but man, the fact that Jake Gyllenhaal was so into that and so into this role, is just like, it's kind of hard not to laugh your ass off at some of the parts in this. And then it just really feels like a movie that has a good idea to it. Not everything about it works. It's a very generic storyline. It's a very predictable movie in general. You can pretty much tell what's going to happen when it's all said and done. And it really doesn't have those great moments that make me say, you should definitely see this for just how clever and funny it is. It knows it's not really all that clever, but at the same time, it does have those moments in there where it's just like, okay, I can definitely see where they were going for here. They just wanted to make a silly, fun movie. And this is written by the same guys, Cinco Paul and Ken Dario, who would later go on to write a number of different things for Illumination, such as the Despicable Me franchise, Horton Hears a Who, The Secret Life of Pets. They wrote Schmageddon on Apple TV Plus together. But they've done stuff since then, and a lot of good stuff too. Other stuff, not so much. But I thought it was a fun, silly, stupid movie. It definitely is not a great film by any means necessary, but it's very funny when it knows exactly what it's trying to accomplish here. And it's a light watch too. It's barely under an hour and a half. You can watch it out pretty quickly and still get enough there to say, hey, that was worth it when it was all said and done. So I recommend it. I think it is a silly, fun movie. It's not a great film by any means, but you can laugh your ass off and have a good time with it if you go into it with a mindset like I did. Yeah, so Bubble Boy, man.
House of pain.
The what?
Those bodies down there, that's what it likes to call it.
Who is this?
I don't know if it's a demon or a devil, or just some hungry thing from some dark place in time.
So it seems like it starts off on a note where it's making fun of itself. You have a story where you have these these siblings on the way back home during spring break, and they witness a mysterious person dumping something down a tunnel. And then they decide to discover what was dumped down there, and the guy, played by Justin Long, discovers a huge disturbing hideout full of modified bodies, and him and his sister basically set off to get help, unaware that the individual is now aware of who has been down the tunnel, and now they realize that their pursuer is not just a mysterious person, but something even more horrifying, who has more in store than they could possibly imagine. And as the trailer kind of gives you the idea, every 23 years, for 23 days, it gets to eat. And, sounds really stupid when you really think about it, because it's just like, okay, if this guy gets to be around for 23 years and 23 days, just don't go to the place where he's at for 23 years and 23 days, and you're pretty much safe there. But, see, I thought with the trailer for this started off with them looking at this guy dumping stuff down there and saying that, hey, you know, we shouldn't do this because, you know what, this is how, basically they're saying this is how horror movies go. And, I thought there was going to be like a satirical edge to it, but, nope, not even that. It's just kind of like, they still do everything that you shouldn't do in a horror movie. You shouldn't go down the tube. You shouldn't get involved with the bad guy in this. The villain, the horror guy, is the guy that's going to kill you. Because guess what? It's your asses now. And this is pretty much what happens in this movie here. And, I mean, it's not a bad movie per se. I get some of the ideas they have here. It has some ideas that are kind of interesting. But the execution really doesn't really work out in the film's favor when it's all said and done. It feels like you think it's going to have a good idea to it, and then it just really just falls apart when it just gets to the point where it falls for all the same horror movie tropes, it falls for the same horror movie cliches. There's nothing original about this movie. There's nothing unique about it. The design of the creeper looks pretty cool. I mean, it's really, like, the pieces are definitely there to make something very interesting overall, and like I said, the creature looks very cool in general, but unfortunately the movie just does not really have that energy there to really do something unique and different about it. It just turns into a very formulaic slasher movie, and not even a good slasher film when it's all said and done. It's kind of a letdown, really, because the promise is definitely there, the potential is definitely there, but unfortunately it's just like, it just never really amounts to anything when it's all said and done. You just feel like you're kind of let down by it. It feels like one of those movies that, you know, you come into it hoping for a lot more from it, and then you come out of it going, wow, that's just like every other every slasher film I've ever seen. Like, at least with somebody like Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees, there's at least some cool factor to it. Like, even if the movies are the predictable movies we've seen done over and over again, you at least get something there that they have their unique spins around them. But with this guy, like I said, every 23 springs he gets to eat for 23 days. And it's just like I said before, just don't be in the area when it's the 23rd spring for him in the 23 days, and just go do something else. You're guaranteed to survive there, but of course we can't do that because we wouldn't have a movie. And maybe it's for the best we probably didn't have a movie, because this character really does not become all that interesting once you really put everything together. And the movie just feels kind of pointless when it's all said and done. Yeah, so not much more to say about that one. Kind of very much a letdown, especially considering what they were setting up for with that trailer, but Jeepers Creepers, nothing there really. So let's move on to the last movie we have here, and that is Mekhi Phifer, Josh Hartnett, and Julia Stiles in O.
Rising hero.
This year's most valuable player, Odin James.
An intense love.
Maybe we could pretend for a while, you know?
A perfect plot.
We're gonna break him up. But Mike told me that him and Desi were together last night.
You'd never give out no love behind my back now, would you?
What? You're the only person I've ever been with.
From here on out, I say nothing.
Mekhi Phifer, Josh Hartnett, Julia Stiles. Rated R.
So this is basically a modern retelling of Othello by William Shakespeare, where you have a tough basketball coach, Duke Golding, played by Martin Sheen, who leaves nothing untried to lead his almost exclusively white boarding school basketball team, the Hawks, to victory after victory, but after his own son, Hugo, played by Josh Hartnett, feels his prolific technical excellence and tireless efforts, which require using stimulants, are not getting any recognition that he thinks he deserves, especially when the coach gives the Best Player award to Odin James, played by Mekhi Phifer, who was the only black teammate, even saying he loves Odin like his own son, which in turn calls super rich Michael Cassio, played by Andrew Keegan, to share in the honor. So Hugo, who is liked by everyone, decides to set up the boys who stole his glory and he knows a cocky adolescent's weak points are his pride in his girl. This Dixie Jago's scheme to bring down a black Othello and his Cassio, playing into the poisonous power of jealousy, however badly this also hurts the loved ones and the whole team. And this is a movie that, like I said, it's a modernized retelling of the story of Othello, and it's directed by Tim Blake Nelson, too. Oh, I did not know directed this movie. I thought it was somebody else entirely, but it's a very interesting film when you really look at it in the long run. It's a film that definitely takes a lot of inspiration from the story of Othello, and it does have ideas that have a lot of promise to it. I think the young cast overall here works very well here. It's a very good cast in general with this particular film, with Pfeiffer, Hartnett, Stiles, Martin Sheen, Rain Phoenix, Keegan, John Hurd, Anthony Johnson. Just a good cast overall in this particular movie, and it's a very interesting film. I don't think it was one of those ones, though, that really felt like it felt like a movie that really wasn't what I think they wanted to really go with here. And it's very interesting because I think I know why this movie did not do so well, because it was a film that was originally intended to be released 2 years ago. It was postponed following the, of course, what happened at Columbine in April of that year, and then the delay again came around when we had the 2000 presidential election. And so basically, the Miramax, who originally were going to release the film, is basically passed it over to Lionsgate after the producers of the movie sued for breach of contract, and so now it finally gets released here. It really felt like Lionsgate didn't really know what to do with the movie. It's just like, hey, we have it here, we've got a weekend, we can put it out on, let's just see what happens. And there are some good ideas to it. There are some ideas I think could work. A modernized version of Othello told this way could be very interesting, kind of like what they did with Romeo and Juliet a couple years ago, but it just doesn't live up to the hype and the potential that they really could have had with a movie like this. It just feels like, the cast overall, I think, sells it to the point where I can't say it's a really bad movie per se, but the story really is a mess on a number of different levels. It's a film that it feels like there was more potential done here, but it didn't have the right script to really make it go to that second level or become like, okay, we really got something here. But, it's not a bad movie per se, and I'll give Tim Blake Nelson some credit. For a guy that I didn't know even directed movies up to this point, I thought he did a pretty good job handling this. I know him mostly for his acting works, but he does show the potential of what he can do as a director overall here. And I don't know. I can't really say it's a bad movie per se, but I can't really say it's a good movie either. It's definitely a film that works mostly because of the casting involved here. I think the cast really elevates this to another level, but everything else about it, though, the ideas are a bit there, kind of like with Jeepers Creepers. The ideas are there, just that second push to really polish up the script a little bit really could have gone a long way to making this movie work better than it actually does. It's just kind of like, it's not bad, it's not good, it's just kind of right there, honestly, the more I think about it. So that's all I got to say about O.